On February 7, 2025, Boeing held an urgent meeting with its employees to address the precarious future of the company's contracts with NASA concerning the Space Launch System (SLS) program. The meeting, called by David Dutcher, Boeing's vice president and program manager for the SLS, was notably brief, lasting only 6 minutes and providing limited scope for employee interaction or questions. During this time, Dutcher conveyed that the contracts might be terminated as early as March, leading to potential layoffs that could impact around 400 positions. This alarming announcement comes amid ongoing discussions within the White House regarding the SLS program's future, which has faced criticism for its escalating costs and significant delays. Historically, the SLS has been plagued with issues, with each launch reportedly exceeding $2 billion, raising concerns about its financial sustainability, especially in the context of a rapidly advancing private space industry. Companies such as SpaceX and Blue Origin have successfully developed heavy-lift rockets at a fraction of the cost of the SLS, prompting advocates to argue that NASA should reconsider its reliance on traditional contractors like Boeing. Boeing's notification to its employees was in compliance with the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification (WARN) Act, which mandates that employers provide a 60-day advance notice of mass layoffs or plant closures. In an effort to mitigate the impact of these layoffs, Boeing is exploring options to redeploy affected employees within the company. The timing of this announcement also aligns with expectations surrounding President Trump's budget proposal for fiscal year 2026, which may signal a shift in funding priorities away from the SLS. Despite Boeing's concerns and preparations for potential job losses, NASA has reiterated that the SLS remains an essential component of the Artemis program, aimed at returning humans to the Moon and eventually sending crews to Mars. Acting NASA Administrator Janet Petro has been vocal in advocating for the use of the existing SLS for upcoming Artemis missions before any potential cancellation of the program. The SLS program, initiated by Congress in 2011, has been characterized by numerous delays and budget overruns. Originally slated for its first launch in 2016, the rocket only made its debut in late 2022. NASA's investment in the SLS has been substantial, reportedly amounting to approximately $3 billion annually. However, as the space industry evolves, there is increasing pressure on NASA to reassess the necessity and viability of the SLS in its broader lunar exploration strategy. In summary, Boeing's notification about the potential cancellation of SLS contracts underscores a critical juncture for NASA's flagship rocket program. The ongoing debates within the White House and NASA regarding the future of the SLS reflect a broader shift in the aerospace industry, where traditional contracting practices may need to adapt to the innovations and efficiencies offered by private space ventures. The outcome of these discussions is poised to significantly influence the trajectory of American space exploration in the coming years. Boeing's recent communication to its employees about the potential cancellation of NASA's Space Launch System (SLS) contracts is laden with counterintuitive points that challenge conventional thinking about space exploration, government contracts, and the future of national aerospace strategy. Here are the key counterintuitive aspects found in the content. 1. Resistance to change in space exploration. While the private space sector, led by companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin, has demonstrated the ability to develop more cost-effective and reusable launch systems, there remains a significant push to retain traditional contracting relationships with legacy companies like Boeing. This is counterintuitive because in a rapidly evolving industry, one might expect a shift toward more innovative and efficient solutions rather than clinging to outdated models that have proven costly and inefficient. 2. Job preservation versus innovation. Boeing's attempts to mitigate job losses by redeploying employees highlight a tension between preserving jobs in a legacy industry and fostering innovation in the aerospace sector. Intuitively, one might assume that job preservation is always a priority, yet in this case, it may come at the cost of advancing technology and reducing costs in space exploration. This presents a paradox where efforts to save jobs may ultimately hinder progress. 3. The cost of progress. The ongoing debate within NASA and the White House about the future of the SLS program reflects a broader question about the value of investing in traditional aerospace contracts versus funding newer, more innovative private sector solutions. Critics argue that the over $2 billion per launch cost of the SLS is unjustifiable, especially when cheaper alternatives exist. This creates a counterintuitive situation where continued investment in SLS could be seen as a commitment to outdated technology rather than a step toward future advancements in space exploration. 4. Perceived necessity of heavy-lift rockets. There is a prevailing belief that a super heavy-lift rocket is essential for a successful moon program. However, this may not be as clear-cut as it seems. Historical missions like Apollo demonstrated that other methods such as in-orbit rendezvous could effectively achieve similar goals without the need for a massive rocket system. The insistence on the SLS as a necessary component of lunar missions could be viewed as a reluctance to explore alternative, potentially more efficient methods. 5. Public funding and private innovation. The notion that government funding is essential for advancing technology in space exploration is frequently accepted as a given. However, the rapid advancements made by private companies raise questions about the necessity of continued government investment in legacy programs. This could lead to the counterintuitive conclusion that pulling funding from traditional programs might actually spur greater innovation and competition in the private sector. 6. The role of competition. The argument that competition drives progress in the aerospace industry is well established. However, the current landscape, dominated by a few key players, suggests that reduced competition may actually be leading to stagnation and inefficiency. The potential cancellation of SLS contracts could open the door for new competitors and innovations, challenging the belief that established companies like Boeing must remain central to national aerospace initiatives. 7. Taxpayer sentiment versus strategic interests. The challenge of justifying continued funding for the SLS program in light of its costs and delays poses a counterintuitive dilemma for policymakers. While taxpayer sentiment often favors cutting perceived wasteful spending, the strategic interests of maintaining a robust national aerospace presence may argue for continued investment in legacy systems. This conflict highlights the complexity of balancing financial pragmatism with national interests in a global context where competitors like China are advancing their space capabilities. In summary, the situation surrounding Boeing and NASA's SLS contracts presents numerous counterintuitive insights that challenge existing paradigms in space exploration. The tension between legacy systems and emerging private sector innovations, the costs associated with progress, and the implications of public funding all raise critical questions about the future trajectory of aerospace endeavors in the United States. The report on Boeing's potential layoffs related to NASA's Space Launch System SLS contracts carries significant implications, particularly in the context of the evolving landscape of space exploration and the future of government contracts in the aerospace sector. Several important points might be overlooked by the general public, yet they hold critical significance for understanding the broader ramifications of this situation. 1. The impact of cost overruns and delays. One of the most significant aspects, often overshadowed by the headlines, is the chronic issue of cost overruns and delays associated with the SLS program. Initiated by Congress in 2011, the SLS was supposed to be a flagship rocket for NASA's deep space missions, but it has faced numerous setbacks, with its first launch occurring 6 years later than planned. The program's costs have ballooned to over $3 billion annually, with each launch costing more than $2 billion. This financial burden is critical as it raises questions about taxpayer investment in a program fraught with inefficiencies. Critics argue that the SLS as a government-funded project is unable to keep pace with advancements made by private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin, which offer more cost-effective solutions. The significance of these cost concerns is compounded by the fact that they may lead to a re-evaluation of NASA's spending priorities and the viability of continuing to fund the SLS program in its current form. 2. Job security and workforce implications. Boeing's notification of potential layoffs affecting approximately 400 employees is a stark reminder of the human cost associated with such large-scale aerospace projects. While the immediate focus may be on the contracts themselves, the broader implications for job security within the aerospace sector and the local economies that depend on these jobs cannot be overlooked. The potential layoffs mandated by the WARN Act are indicative of a wider trend in the industry where traditional contracting models are being challenged. As the private sector increasingly takes on roles once held by government contracts, the reliance on legacy companies like Boeing raises concerns about job stability in regions dependent on such contracts. The situation exemplifies the need for a shift in workforce strategy and skills training in the aerospace industry. 3. The debate over government versus private sector roles. The ongoing discussions within the White House and NASA regarding the future of the SLS program reflect a broader debate about the roles of government and private enterprise in space exploration. As the private sector demonstrates its ability to innovate and reduce costs, the justification for maintaining a costly government program like the SLS becomes increasingly tenuous. This shift raises important questions about the nature of public investment in space exploration. Should government funds be allocated to support large contractors with legacy systems? Or should they be redirected to encourage innovation and competition in the private sector? This debate not only influences future budget allocations but also shapes the direction of U.S. space policy in the coming decades. 4. The Artemis program and its future. The SLS is positioned as a critical component of NASA's Artemis program aimed at returning humans to the Moon and eventually sending missions to Mars. However, the current discussions surrounding the possible cancellation of SLS contracts cast doubt on the future of the Artemis program itself. NASA Administrator Janet Petro's advocacy for using the SLS for upcoming Artemis missions before any potential cancellation underscores the urgency of the situation. The implications of this uncertainty extend beyond just the SLS, they also affect international partnerships, scientific goals, and public interest in space exploration. If the Artemis program is jeopardized, it could stall the momentum gained in recent years and diminish the U.S.'s leadership position in global space exploration. 5. Political and economic context. The timing of Boeing's announcement coincides with the anticipated release of President Trump's budget proposal for fiscal year 2026. This context is significant as it suggests that the decision to cancel the SLS program may be influenced by political considerations, including shifting priorities in federal spending. The aerospace industry has historically been intertwined with the political landscape, often serving as a barometer for broader economic trends. The potential cancellation of SLS contracts could serve as a litmus test for the current administration's stance on federal investment in science and technology, shaping the economic landscape of the aerospace sector for years to come. Conclusion. In summary, the implications of Boeing's potential layoffs and the future of NASA's SLS contracts extend far beyond the immediate concerns of job security and financial viability. They touch on critical themes of innovation, efficiency, and the evolving roles of government and private industry in space exploration. Understanding these factors is essential for grasping the future of U.S. space policy and the potential directions for investment in aerospace technology. Addressing these overlooked aspects will be crucial as stakeholders from various sectors navigate the complexities of this pivotal moment in space exploration history. 1. The urgency of potential layoffs. Boeing's recent communication to its employees about the potential cancellation of NASA's SLS contracts underscores the urgency of the situation. With possible layoffs affecting approximately 400 positions. This highlights the financial and operational risks Boeing faces due to the uncertainties surrounding the SLS program. The company's compliance with the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification WARN Act reflects a significant moment for both Boeing and its workforce, emphasizing the need for strategic planning in light of potential job losses. 2. Cost-effectiveness of the SLS program. The SLS program has been criticized for its exorbitant launch costs, which exceed $2 billion per mission, making it a financial burden on NASA. In contrast, private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin have developed more cost-effective and reusable heavy-lift rockets. This disparity has led to ongoing debates about whether NASA should continue investing in the SLS or shift its focus to more economically viable options, particularly as the aerospace industry evolves. 3. The future of NASA's lunar exploration strategy. Despite the call for potential program cancellation, NASA insists that the SLS remains a critical component of its Artemis program, which aims to facilitate human missions to the Moon and eventually Mars. The conflicting perspectives within NASA and the White House about the program's future raise important questions about NASA's long-term strategy for lunar exploration and the role of traditional contracting practices in an era dominated by private space ventures. For impact of political decisions on space programs, the timing of Boeing's announcement coincides with anticipated budget proposals from the White House, which could influence funding priorities for NASA. The ongoing debates within the government about the SLS program highlight the intersection of politics and space exploration, as decisions made by policymakers can significantly affect the direction of NASA's initiatives and the broader landscape of American space exploration. As the space industry becomes more competitive, the reliance on established contractors like Boeing may need to be re-evaluated in favor of innovative approaches that leverage private sector advancements. 1. The Boeing 737 MAX crisis 2018-2020. The Boeing 737 MAX crisis involved the grounding of the aircraft following two fatal crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia, which resulted in the deaths of 346 people. Investigations revealed issues with the aircraft's design and a failure in regulatory oversight by the Federal Aviation Administration (FAA). The crisis led to significant financial losses for Boeing, a public relations disaster, and scrutiny of the company's practices and culture. The fallout included investigations by multiple government entities, lawsuits from victims' families, and a severe impact on Boeing's workforce, including layoffs. This case highlights the consequences of cutting corners in engineering and the risks of prioritizing production over safety. 2. General Motors and the ignition switch recall 2014. General Motors GM faced a massive scandal when it was revealed that faulty ignition switches in several models were linked to numerous accidents and fatalities. The company was criticized for its delayed response in addressing the safety issues, which had been known for over a decade. GM eventually recalled millions of vehicles and faced significant legal consequences, including fines and lawsuits. The case raised questions about corporate accountability, safety regulations, and the ethical responsibilities of automotive manufacturers. The fallout saw GM restructuring its safety protocols and a renewed focus on corporate governance. 3. The Challenger Space Shuttle disaster 1986. The Challenger disaster was a tragic event in which the NASA Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart 73 seconds into its flight, resulting in the deaths of all 7 crew members aboard. Investigations revealed that the disaster was caused by the failure of O-rings in cold weather, which was known before the launch but was ignored due to pressure to proceed. The incident led to a re-evaluation of NASA's safety culture, decision-making processes, and communication practices. The Rogers Commission was established to investigate the disaster, and it made numerous recommendations for improving safety and accountability within NASA, resulting in significant changes in how space missions were managed. The future of the Space Launch System (SLS) program and Boeing's involvement in it is currently uncertain, as the potential cancellation of contracts by NASA looms large. This situation reflects broader trends in the aerospace industry and may set the stage for significant changes in how space exploration is conducted in the United States. Predictions for the future. 1. Shift towards commercial launch providers. As the private space industry continues to mature, NASA is likely to increasingly rely on commercial launch providers like SpaceX and Blue Origin. These companies have demonstrated the capability to launch payloads at a fraction of the cost of the SLS. The trend suggests a future where NASA prioritizes partnerships with commercial entities capable of providing cost-effective and reusable launch solutions. 2. Reduction in government-contracted launch systems. With ongoing discussions about budget priorities, it is predicted that NASA might formally announce a shift away from traditional government-contracted launch systems like SLS. This could lead to more funding directed towards innovative commercial solutions, potentially signaling the end of large-scale, costly government rocket programs. 3. Increased focus on reusability and cost efficiency. The success of reusable rocket technology will likely push NASA and other space agencies to focus on cost efficiency. The future will probably see an emphasis on reusability for missions to the Moon and Mars, reducing the need for expensive single-use rockets like the SLS, which has been criticized for its prohibitive costs and delays. 4. Evolution of the Artemis program. The Artemis program, intended to return humans to the Moon, may undergo significant changes. Depending on the outcome of the SLS program's future, NASA might adapt its approach to lunar missions, potentially collaborating with commercial partners to achieve its goals without relying heavily on the SLS. 5. Job market implications. The potential layoffs of approximately 400 Boeing employees associated with the SLS program could lead to a ripple effect in the aerospace job market. As the industry shifts towards more agile commercial operators, workforce realignment may occur, with employees needing to upskill or transition to new roles within different sectors of the aerospace industry. 6. Policy and budgetary changes. The upcoming fiscal year budgets proposed by the Biden administration and subsequent congressional discussions will likely shape the future of space exploration funding. The government may prioritize funding for more innovative, cost-effective space initiatives rather than sustaining outdated programs like the SLS. 7. International space competition. As countries like China ramp up their lunar exploration efforts, the U.S. may feel pressured to maintain its competitive edge in space exploration. This could lead to a more aggressive stance towards partnerships with commercial entities, ensuring that the U.S. remains a leader in space technology and exploration. 8. Increased investment in technology development. With a pivot away from traditional contractors, there may be increased investment in cutting-edge technologies. This includes advancements in propulsion systems, satellite technologies, and in-orbit servicing capabilities, which could be necessary for future missions to deeper space. 9. Potential for new space policies. The cancellation of SLS contracts could prompt a re-evaluation of U.S. space policy, encouraging a framework that fosters competition and innovation. Policymakers may seek to create an environment that incentivizes public-private partnerships and supports the growth of a diverse space industry. 10. Impact on long-term space goals. The future of human exploration beyond the Moon may also be influenced. If NASA can secure collaborations with private firms, it could accelerate plans for missions to Mars and beyond, leveraging the strengths of both public and private sectors to achieve ambitious goals. Conclusion. The potential cancellation of Boeing's contracts for the SLS program marks a significant crossroads for NASA and the future of U.S. space exploration. As the industry evolves, the focus is likely to shift towards collaboration with commercial space providers, emphasizing cost efficiency and technological advancements. This transformation could redefine the landscape of space exploration in the coming years, with profound implications for how humanity approaches the challenges and opportunities of space travel.